Sometimes a woman walks away from a relationship thinking that silence means she's forgotten. No calls, no texts, no signs. But the truth is, distance doesn't always erase memories. When a woman leaves a genuine emotional mark on someone's life, her presence doesn't disappear just because communication stops. Certain connections leave a lasting impression that lingers in the mind and heart long after the conversation ends. When a man truly felt something meaningful, the absence can actually make those memories louder. The quiet moments, the laughter, the way she made him feel about himself, those things don't just fade overnight. Understanding why someone can still be thinking about you without reaching out can lead to a deeper understanding of the situation and the people involved. Help women recognize their value and the impact they have had on someone's life. Here are 4 important reasons why you may still be on his mind even without contact. There is something deeply powerful about making a man feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Many people underestimate how meaningful this experience can be, but emotional recognition is one of the strongest impressions a person can leave on someone's heart. When a woman genuinely acknowledges a man's efforts, listens to his thoughts, and respects who he is beyond the surface, she shows that she values his thoughts and feelings. That experience becomes something he rarely forgets. Even after distance and silence, those memories can quietly remain in his mind. In many relationships, men are often expected to be strong, responsible, and emotionally steady. From a young age, many are taught to carry pressure without openly talking about how they feel. Because of that, they don't always encounter people who truly take the time to understand their inner world. When a woman enters their life and offers that kind of emotional space where they can speak openly, feel respected, and know that someone values their struggles, it creates a rare connection. Think about how powerful it is when someone feels safe enough to be themselves. When a woman listens without judgment and shows genuine curiosity about his dreams, she can create a safe space for him to share his thoughts and feelings. Fears and ambitions, it builds a kind of emotional trust that is difficult to replace. A man may not always express it directly, but feeling understood touches something very deep inside him. Women often bring emotional awareness into relationships. When that awareness is expressed through encouragement and appreciation, it becomes something that strengthens a man's confidence. Simple moments like acknowledging his hard work, recognizing his intentions, or believing in his potential can mean far more than they appear on the surface. Those small acts of recognition communicate a powerful message. I see who you are, and it matters. When someone experiences that kind of appreciation, it creates a positive emotional association. The mind remembers not only the person, but also the way that person made them feel. Human memory is strongly tied to emotions. We may forget certain details of conversations or events, but we rarely forget how someone made us feel during those moments. If a woman made a man feel valued during the time they shared together, those emotional impressions tend to stay with him even when life moves forward. Silence does not erase those experiences. In fact, sometimes distance makes those memories clearer. Without daily interaction, the mind begins to revisit the past and recognize the emotional comfort that once existed. A man might remember how she supported him when he doubted himself. He might recall the way she listened when he talked about his goals, or how she encouraged him when he faced challenges. Those moments can replay in his thoughts because they represent something meaningful, a time when someone truly believed in him. This doesn't mean that men constantly think about the past or remain emotionally stuck. Life continues, people grow, and circumstances change. However, meaningful emotional experiences often become part of a person's internal story. When someone has played a role in building a person's confidence or offering genuine understanding, that impact rarely disappears completely. Another important aspect of appreciation is respect. Many men value feeling respected just as much as feeling loved. Respect communicates that someone recognizes their effort, their intentions, and their identity. When a woman shows respect through her words and actions, it creates a sense of partnership rather than pressure. For example, when a woman encourages a man's ambitions instead of dismissing them, it strengthens his sense of purpose. When she acknowledges the responsibilities he carries and expresses gratitude for his efforts, it reinforces his motivation to continue growing. These moments might seem ordinary at the time, but emotionally they can carry a lot of weight. Sometimes a man may not fully understand how meaningful those experiences were until later. During the relationship, everyday life can move quickly, and people may not always pause to recognize the emotional support they are receiving. But when the relationship ends or communication stops, reflection often begins. Reflection has a way of highlighting things that were once overlooked. A man might start to remember the woman who encouraged him when he felt uncertain, or the conversations where she listened with patience and understanding. Over time, he may realize that her presence created a sense of emotional comfort that he hasn't easily found elsewhere. It is also important to understand that appreciation goes both ways in healthy relationships. Just as men value being seen and respected, women also deserve recognition, emotional safety, and understanding. Relationships grow strongest when both people acknowledge each other's contributions and support each other's personal growth. For women, recognizing the power of emotional appreciation can also strengthen their own sense of self-worth. Sometimes after a relationship ends, women may question whether they mattered or whether the connection meant anything. Silence can make it feel like everything was forgotten. But emotional impact does not always disappear just because communication stops. The kindness, encouragement, and respect that a woman shared during the relationship may continue to influence how a man thinks, makes decisions, and views future relationships. Those experiences can quietly shape how he understands connection and appreciation. In many cases, the reason someone remains on another person's mind is not because of dramatic events or grand gestures. Instead, it is the emotional environment that was created between them. When someone felt supported, valued, and understood, that experience becomes memorable. People naturally gravitate toward environments where they feel emotionally safe and appreciated. When they look back at those experiences, they often recognize how rare they were. A woman who provided that kind of emotional presence may become someone a man remembers with respect and gratitude. Understanding this can help women shift their perspective after a relationship ends. Instead of focusing only on whether someone reaches out again, it can be more empowering to recognize the emotional value they brought into the connection. The ability to listen, encourage, and appreciate someone is a powerful quality that not everyone possesses. When a woman brings that kind of emotional intelligence into a relationship, she leaves an impression that often lasts longer than she realizes. Even in silence, the memory of feeling understood and appreciated can stay quietly present in someone's thoughts. That emotional imprint becomes part of the story they carry forward in their life. One of the most powerful things that can happen after a relationship ends is reflection. When two people are constantly communicating, seeing each other, or sharing daily moments, there is often little space to truly analyze the relationship. Life moves quickly, conversations happen naturally, and emotions are experienced in real time. But when that connection suddenly stops and silence replaces interaction, something interesting begins to happen in the mind. The absence creates room for reflection. Human beings tend to notice the value of something more clearly once it is no longer part of their everyday life. When someone is consistently present, their presence can slowly become part of the routine. It doesn't necessarily mean they are taken for granted intentionally, but familiarity sometimes reduces awareness. The mind becomes used to certain conversations, certain emotional support, and certain moments of comfort. When that presence disappears, the routine changes. Suddenly, there are quiet moments where someone used to be. The conversations that once filled the day are no longer there. The mind begins to notice the empty spaces where emotional interaction once existed. In those quiet spaces, reflection naturally begins. Reflection is the process of looking back and evaluating experiences more carefully. It allows people to replay memories, reconsider decisions, and understand situations from a different perspective. When a man no longer has daily communication with a woman who once played an important role in his life, he is left to wonder if he will ever find someone who can fill that role. He may begin thinking about the moments they shared together. These reflections often start with simple memories. He might remember a conversation that made him laugh during a stressful time. He might recall the way she encouraged him when he felt uncertain about something in his life. Even small moments like shared jokes or late-night talks can return to the mind with surprising clarity. The reason this happens is connected to how human memory works. Emotional experiences tend to stay stronger in our minds than ordinary events. When someone associates a person with comfort, support, or understanding, those emotional associations remain stored in memory. Once the daily distractions of communication are removed, The brain has more time to revisit those emotional experiences. Silence can sometimes amplify memories instead of erasing them. When someone is no longer part of everyday interaction, the mind begins to review the past to understand what happened and what it meant. During that process, people often notice details that they previously overlooked. For example, a man might begin to recognize the emotional support a woman provided during difficult moments. While the relationship was active, he may have simply accepted that support as part of the normal dynamic. But after distance creates space for reflection, he might realize how meaningful those moments truly were. He might remember how she listened when he talked about his worries or ambitions. He might recall how she noticed things about him that others ignored. These memories can create a deeper appreciation that was not fully understood before the silence began. Reflection also encourages people to examine their own actions. When communication stops, many individuals start asking themselves questions. They may wonder whether they handled certain situations well, whether they expressed appreciation clearly, or whether they misunderstood something during the relationship. This self-examination is a natural part of emotional growth. Distance often gives people the clarity they didn't have when emotions were active and situations were unfolding quickly. With time, someone might start to see the relationship from a more balanced perspective. Another important aspect of reflection is comparison. When someone moves forward in life and interacts with new people, they may unconsciously compare those experiences to past connections. This doesn't mean they are trying to replace someone or stay attached to the past. Instead, it simply means the brain uses previous experiences as reference points. If a woman created a strong emotional connection, that experience may stand out during these comparisons. A man might notice that certain qualities she had, such as patience, empathy, or encouragement, are not always easy to find in other interactions. These realizations can bring past memories back into focus. Silence also removes emotional noise. When two people are actively communicating, their interactions include disagreements, misunderstandings, daily stress, and other complicated emotions. These moments can sometimes distract from the deeper emotional value of the relationship. When time passes and distance grows, those immediate frustrations often fade from memory first. What tends to remain are the emotionally meaningful moments, the conversations that created closeness, the experiences that built trust, and the times when both people felt understood. This shift in perspective can change how someone remembers the relationship. Instead of focusing on temporary disagreements, the mind may begin highlighting the emotional comfort that existed between two people. For women, understanding the power of absence can be important for emotional healing. After a relationship ends, silence can feel like rejection or indifference. It may seem as if the other person has completely moved on without thinking about the connection that once existed. However, the absence of communication does not necessarily mean the absence of thought. Many people process emotions privately rather than expressing them outwardly. Reflection often happens internally without being shared openly. A man might spend time thinking about past conversations or moments that shaped the relationship. He might recognize lessons he learned from the experience or appreciate the personal growth that came from it. These reflections can remain personal even if he never speaks about them directly. It is also important to remember that reflection does not always lead to action. Someone may think about the past, learn from it, and carry those insights forward into their life without reconnecting with the person involved. Reflection is primarily about understanding experiences rather than changing the past. Still, the process of reflection shows how meaningful connections can stay present in someone's mind long after communication stops. When a woman played an important emotional role in someone's life, her absence can create the space where those memories are revisited and understood more deeply. In many ways, absence acts like a mirror that allows people to see the past more clearly. Without constant interaction, the mind becomes free to explore memories and emotions that once moved too quickly to fully appreciate. Through this reflection, someone may realize the emotional significance of a relationship that once felt ordinary in daily life. For women, this understanding can be empowering. It reminds them that the emotional presence they brought into someone's life does not simply disappear when contact ends. The kindness, patience, and encouragement they offered may continue to exist within someone's reflections long after the conversations have stopped. When two people share a genuine connection, the experiences they create together often leave lasting emotional imprints. Not every relationship creates this kind of depth. Some connections are brief, surface level, or built mostly around convenience and timing. But when a relationship includes real conversations, emotional honesty, and shared vulnerability, it tends to leave a stronger mark on both people involved. Even after time passes and communication stops, those experiences can continue to live quietly in someone's memory. Human relationships are deeply influenced by emotion. When people allow themselves to be open with each other, sharing their thoughts, fears, hopes, and personal experiences, it creates a level of intimacy that goes beyond ordinary interaction. These moments of openness become meaningful because they require trust. Trust allows two people to show parts of themselves that they may not reveal to the rest of the world. When a woman creates an environment where a man feels comfortable enough to be emotionally open, that experience can become significant for him. Many men are not always encouraged to express vulnerability in everyday life. Society often expects them to remain strong, composed, and focused on solving problems. Because of this expectation, they may not often find spaces where they feel completely safe sharing their deeper thoughts and emotions. When a woman listens without judgment and allows that emotional openness to exist, it can feel rare and meaningful. A conversation where someone feels truly heard can stay in memory for a long time. The reason is simple: being understood on an emotional level satisfies a basic human need. Everyone wants to feel that their thoughts and feelings matter to someone else. These shared moments slowly build an emotional bond. The bond does not form because of one single event. Instead, it develops through many small experiences, honest conversations, supportive gestures, shared laughter, and mutual understanding. Over time, those experiences create a sense of connection that feels authentic. Authentic connections often leave deeper emotional impressions than relationships based only on physical attraction or routine companionship. When two people connect through meaningful dialogue and emotional support, they become part of each other's personal stories. The memories they create together are attached not only to events but also to feelings. For example, a man may remember the late-night conversations where he talked about his goals and dreams. He may remember the moments when a woman reassured him during difficult situations or encouraged him to believe in his abilities. These experiences become associated with feelings of comfort, confidence, and emotional safety. The brain tends to hold on to experiences that carry strong emotions. When someone experiences happiness, relief, encouragement, or understanding during a moment shared with another person, those feelings strengthen the memory. Later in life, certain songs, places, or even quiet moments can trigger those memories again. This is why genuine connections can stay present in someone's thoughts even when life moves forward. The memories are tied to emotional experiences that were meaningful at the time they happened. They become part of how someone remembers a chapter of their life. It is important to understand that emotional imprints are not about holding on to the past in an unhealthy way. Instead, they represent how certain relationships contribute to personal growth and understanding. Every meaningful connection teaches people something about themselves and about relationships. For instance, a man who experienced patience, empathy, and encouragement from a woman may carry those lessons forward. He might begin to understand the value of emotional support more clearly. When he reflects on past experiences, he may realize that the connection he shared with her helped him grow emotionally. Sometimes people do not fully appreciate the depth of a connection until later. During the relationship, daily life can be busy and distractions can make it difficult to recognize how meaningful certain interactions truly are. When the relationship ends or distance grows, reflection can highlight the emotional significance that once existed. A man might suddenly remember the way a woman understood his sense of humor or how she noticed things about him that others rarely paid attention to. He may recall how comfortable it felt to talk openly with her about his challenges or ambitions. These memories can appear unexpectedly because they are tied to authentic experiences. Genuine connections also create familiarity. When two people spend time understanding each other's personalities, habits, and values, they are building a strong foundation for a healthy relationship. They develop a sense of emotional familiarity that can be difficult to replace. Familiarity brings comfort, and comfort strengthens the bond between two individuals. After a relationship ends, people sometimes encounter new situations or new relationships that remind them of the past. This does not necessarily mean they are comparing people in a negative way. Instead, the brain naturally references previous experiences to understand present ones. During those moments, memories of a genuine connection can return. A man might remember how a particular conversation with a woman made him feel supported, or how her presence brought a sense of calm during stressful times. These memories can remind him of the emotional depth that once existed between them. Another reason genuine connections leave strong impressions is because they often involve shared growth. During a relationship, both people influence each other in subtle ways. They may encourage each other to pursue goals, face fears, or develop new perspectives. These influences become part of each person's personal development. When someone looks back at a period of growth in their life, they often remember the people who were present during that time. If a woman played a role in supporting or inspiring that growth, her presence may remain connected to those positive changes. For women, understanding the impact of genuine connection can be empowering. Sometimes after a relationship ends, women may question whether the time and emotional energy they invested truly mattered. Silence from the other person can create the impression that everything was easily forgotten. But emotional experiences rarely disappear so quickly. When a woman brought honesty, empathy, and emotional support into a relationship, those qualities often leave a lasting impression. Even if communication stops, the memories of those experiences can remain meaningful. It is also important for women to recognize that their emotional intelligence is a valuable strength. The ability to create meaningful conversations, listen with empathy, and support someone's personal journey is something that contributes to healthy relationships. These qualities often become the foundation of genuine connections. When a woman offers those qualities in a relationship, she demonstrates her worth and value to the relationship. She is not only contributing to the connection itself, but also shaping the emotional experiences that the other person will remember. Those experiences can stay in someone's mind long after the relationship has ended. Genuine connections remind people that relationships are not only about time spent together, but also about the emotional impact created during that time. The conversations, shared understanding, and supportive moments all combine to form memories that can last far beyond the relationship itself. For this reason, when a connection was truly authentic, it often becomes part of someone's emotional history. Even if life moves forward and paths separate, the memories of that connection can continue to exist quietly within a person's thoughts, reminding them of a time when they felt understood, supported, and genuinely connected. Personal growth has a unique way of changing how people see their past. As individuals move through different stages of life, they gain new experiences, face new challenges, and learn lessons that slowly reshape their understanding of relationships. What someone once viewed in a certain way may begin to look very different after time, maturity, and self-reflection. This is why growth often brings realizations that were not obvious before. When people are in the middle of a relationship, emotions can sometimes cloud their perspective. Everyday pressures, misunderstandings, and personal struggles may make it difficult to clearly see the full value of the person beside them. Life moves quickly, and people often focus on solving immediate problems rather than appreciating the deeper qualities of the relationship itself. However, as time passes and life continues, people naturally grow. Growth happens through experiences, successes, failures, new responsibilities, and personal reflection. Each of these experiences adds a new layer of understanding about life and relationships. With that understanding often comes a clearer view of the past. A man who continues to grow emotionally and mentally may eventually begin to reflect on the relationships that shaped him. During that reflection, he may realize that certain people played a more important role in his life than he originally recognized. Sometimes appreciation does not appear immediately, it develops gradually as someone matures. For example, when people are younger or less emotionally experienced, they may focus more on surface-level aspects of relationships. They might prioritize excitement, convenience, or external circumstances without fully recognizing the importance of emotional support, patience, and loyalty. As they grow older and encounter different experiences, their priorities often begin to shift. Over time, they may start to value deeper qualities in relationships. Traits such as understanding, kindness, encouragement and emotional stability begin to stand out as more meaningful than they once seemed. When this shift in perspective happens, people sometimes look back at past relationships and realize that someone had those qualities all along. A man might remember how a woman supported him during uncertain moments in his life. At the time, he may have seen her encouragement as something normal or expected. But later, after experiencing situations where that kind of support is missing, he may begin to understand how valuable it truly was. Growth often comes through challenges. Life presents situations that require resilience, patience, and emotional maturity. When someone faces those challenges, they start to appreciate the people who once stood beside them with understanding and encouragement. In hindsight, those supportive moments become more meaningful. Sometimes personal growth also brings awareness about one's own behavior. As people mature, they begin to recognize mistakes they may have made in the past. They might realize that they did not always communicate well, or that they failed to appreciate someone who cared about them deeply. This type of realization does not necessarily happen quickly. It often develops gradually as someone reflects on their actions and learns from life experiences. When people grow emotionally, they become better at recognizing the value of qualities such as patience, empathy, and loyalty. If a woman demonstrated those qualities in a relationship, her presence may remain in a man's thoughts as he grows and reflects. He may remember the way she encouraged him when he doubted himself or the patience she showed during difficult moments. These memories can take on new meaning as his perspective evolves. Another important part of growth is learning what truly matters in relationships. Early experiences sometimes focus on excitement or temporary emotions, but maturity often shifts attention towards stability, trust, and emotional partnership. When someone begins to value these deeper elements, they may look back at past relationships through a new lens. A man might start to recognize that a woman once offered him the kind of emotional connection that many people search for later in life. He may remember the conversations where she truly listened, the moments when she stood by him during stressful times, or the way she encouraged him to keep moving forward. These realizations do not always lead to renewed communication, but they can leave a lasting impression on how someone remembers the relationship. Growth often transforms memories into lessons. People begin to understand what they learned from certain connections and how those experiences shape their emotional development. For women, understanding the role of growth can be empowering. After a relationship ends, it is easy to assume that the other person simply moved on without reflection or appreciation. Silence can sometimes feel like a sign that the relationship meant very little. However, personal growth often happens quietly and internally. Many people do not openly share the realizations they gain over time. A man may carry those reflections privately, recognizing the role someone played in his life without necessarily expressing it outwardly. Growth can also lead to gratitude. When someone understands that a past relationship contributed to their development or helped them become a better version of themselves, they are said to have gained a new perspective or a new understanding of themselves. They may feel appreciation for that experience. Even if life has taken them in a different direction, they can still recognize the value of what once existed. This is why meaningful relationships often remain part of a person's emotional memory. The people who supported us, challenged us to grow, or believed in us during important moments of our lives tend to stay connected to our sense of personal history. Sometimes the lessons from a relationship become clearer only after someone has faced similar situations later in life. A man might encounter moments where he realizes that the advice, patience, or encouragement he once received from a woman helped shape the way he handles challenges today. These kinds of realizations can bring a deeper understanding of how influential certain relationships were. The growth that follows may lead him to reflect on those experiences with respect and appreciation. For women, this perspective highlights an important truth. The emotional support and understanding they bring into a relationship often have a lasting impact. Even if that impact is not immediately acknowledged, it can still influence someone's growth over time. The patience shown during difficult conversations, the encouragement offered during uncertain moments, and the belief placed in someone's potential all contribute to the emotional foundation of a relationship. These experiences can stay with a person long after the relationship itself has ended. Personal growth has a way of revealing the true significance of past connections. As people mature and gain a deeper understanding of themselves and others, they begin to develop a greater sense of empathy and understanding. They often begin to recognize the individuals who played meaningful roles in their journey. Through this process, a man may come to appreciate the woman who once stood beside him with understanding, support, and belief in his potential. Even if life continues to move forward and paths remain separate, the realization of her value can remain quietly present in his thoughts as part of the lessons that help shape who he has become.